We've had our garbage truck for 7 months now, so I think it's time to do some initial thoughts on it. When you look at garbage trucks, there's two pieces to consider. One is what the vehicle portion is. That's going to be the cab and then the wheels. The other is the body itself, the refuse body. So somebody makes this and then somebody different makes this. The people who make the refuse body buy the cabs. They'll be stripped down so it'll just be the cab and a bare frame. And then they take them to these factories where they make these and attach them. And then from there they sell them to dealers. From there, people like me buy them from dealers. That's kind of the process of this. It's not quite the same as a car or a truck where one company makes the whole thing and then it goes out to dealers. It's got to go through a couple more steps other than that. The reason I make that distinction is because there are two distinct components to give feedback on. One is the Isuzu NRR, which is what this diesel truck is, and the other is the Pacmac RL8 rear load 8-yard trash body, refuse body. So first we'll take a look at the Isuzu, but do keep in mind to take everything with a grain of salt because we are a small mom and pop company. We have 1 day a week that we're running. That route ends up being about 125, 130 miles now that we have to take 2 trips to the landfill, which recently we've started doing. We're at around 170 customers and we've almost got all 200 of our cans out. We'll be getting another batch of 200 cans in soon, but that kind of gives you the demographics of how this truck is being used. One of the biggest complaints you will hear people have with modern diesel engines is the emission system. This diesel engine has 2 emission systems on it, if I'm not misspeaking. One of these is the DPF, the diesel particulate filter. The other one is the use of DEF fluid, which I believe is part of the SCR system, selective catalytic reduction. I could have those completely mixed up, but basically that DEF fluid is used, it shoots in the exhaust, and through some kind of chemical change, it converts bad stuff into relatively neutral stuff. I don't understand those systems well enough to explain them. I only know the basics of how they work and the fact that they exist on this truck. With these trucks in particular, the regen system is something that a lot of folks don't like. And what regen is that when this diesel particulate filter is clogged, basically it traps tiny particles and the filter becomes less efficient over time the more particulate gets in the filter. It will go through a regen system, which is when the engine will run higher than normal to produce higher than normal temperatures in that filter with the goal of burning that particulate, that soot off and away. That means that there are going to be times when this truck enters its regen status and whatever you're doing, you really shouldn't shut the truck off. You need to let it run through that regen. If you shut this truck off in the middle of a regen, you're going to run into issues. If you prevent this truck from fully completing its regen, you're going to run into issues. The regen system can be done with the truck parked. If it goes into regen and you were just about to end your workday, you would just have to let it sit and go through that process. It's something like 30 to 40 minutes if it's just idling. If that regen process occurs while you're driving, it could be significantly less. We have never ran into any issue with the regen because this truck stays running from the time we start our morning at 3:30 till when we pull back into this driveway, which currently is around 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Our truck doesn't shut off, and that's one big difference from people who use these kind of trucks for, let's say, landscape crews or box vans, dry vans that people can ship things in. A lot of those times you're going to have somebody who is running the truck and then shutting it off. This thing stays running all the time. So no matter when the regen process on this runs, it's okay for us because we never have to interrupt it. The engine will be a little bit more sluggish if you're, just putzing around town. Like if we're in the middle of the route, my wife who drives this for me, she can notice that the acceleration's a little off. It takes a little bit longer to get up to speed. But this thing has not really given us any issues when it comes to regen. So now we're in the interior of the cab, and I think this is probably the only negative stuff that I have to say about the Isuzu NRR, and pretty much all of the variants are identical when it comes to the cab, is that comfort is not readily present. So the driver's seat does have adjusting forward and backwards, and it does have a decent range of recline that it can do. Ideally, for my wife who is sitting in this chair for, almost a full 12-hour day, I would want some kind of air suspension upgrade, which I could be wrong, but I don't think they have any kind of upgrade like that for this vehicle. If you step up to the next F series of trucks, those ones do have an air seat. Just something that's a little bit more ergonomic and isn't going to cause any muscle or nerve or blood flow issues because you're sitting in a way that you shouldn't for 12 hours out of the day. Now over on my side of the truck, things aren't much better. In fact, they're quite a bit worse for comfort. Legroom is okay, but this seat is just one solid piece of foam that pops out, so there's no adjustment backwards or forwards. And then this seat back, it doesn't have, you would think it has adjustment, but it only locks in one position. It just does this so you can fold it all the way flat. That, I would appreciate some ability to recline like the driver's seat, just because, again, 12 hours, sometimes you want to shift your position or something, and you really can't do that with this seat over here. And obviously storage space is not super abundant. There is some room back here, but by the time we get all our water bottles and our food for the day and my wife's bag and all my PPE and the clothes that I might need for the day, the uniforms and the outfits and the vests and the hoodies if it's cold and the hats, and it fills up quick. So that would be ideal. But again, this is a purpose-built cab for a specific thing, and comfort and storage are not two of the priorities, so I get that completely. The heat and the AC work great in this thing. There's no complaints there. It's all very simple. You're basically moving all the blender doors yourselves, which I like because we've got an older vehicle where the blender doors are not working the way they should because they're controlled by electronics. Most of the time we don't listen to the radio, but it works fine. The Bluetooth pairing feature is really wonky, and I couldn't get it to work with either of my phones. That might be a me issue. But the USB does put out some juice for charging, which is what we use it for. We've got this cell phone holder that we'll put in the cup holder. We'll run our cable from the radio to the cell phone that runs Jobber, our software. Which, as a quick side note, Jobber does this thing every year where they give out grants, $10,000 grants to 15 different businesses. There's not a lot of rules for applying. I think you got to be over 18. You've got to be in the US or Canada, but not Quebec, and you have to be a home service business, which means you provide services to people, at their homes, at their residences, at the commercial buildings, window cleaning, those kind of things. But they're doing it again for 2025. They're giving away $150,000 total. If you're interested, there's a link in the description where you can sign up for it. This is such a great program that they basically give you $10,000. It's not a loan. It's $10,000 that you can use for whatever you want if you go through the entry process and apply and end up being one of the winners. So definitely check that out because it only takes a few minutes to sign up. And hey, you might get $10,000 to put towards your next garbage truck. Not that $10,000 is going to get you very far for a garbage truck, but hey, every bit helps. Ergonomics for getting in and out of the Isuzu, I think, are pretty good. I get in and out. I don't think it's an exaggeration to say at least 100 times every time we run the trash route. So they have a step here and a good grab handle here, and that's pretty much what I will use to get in and out every single time, and I've never had any kind of safety issues or felt unsafe doing it. There's a ton of bite on this bottom tread, and this handle, it's plastic, but it's got some kind of metal bracket inside of it because it's extremely sturdy. And so when we pull up to a place for speed, generally I will already have my left trash glove on and it will be holding my right trash glove, and I will just put my right foot here, my right hand, and then back myself out like this. And then as I'm walking to the back of the truck, I'll put that right hand glove on just for speed. I see I've got a nail in the tire. I know I know exactly where we picked this up because we dumped behind a truck that had a whole bunch of roofing material. So thankfully it's in the thicker part of the tread. I'll probably see if I feel lucky later today and yank that puppy out. I have to make sure I've got a tire plug kit first though. So aside from comfort, I don't have anything bad to say about my Isuzu so far. We've got just under, so we're at 275 hours on the machine and just about 3,700 miles. So the thing's still practically brand new, so you would expect it to work pretty well. So again, take everything I say with a grain of salt because we haven't been running it for too long. But aside from comfort, I don't have anything bad to say about this Isuzu. The other thing that I've really been happy with is local dealer support. I bought this in Tampa from a dealer who, during the purchase process, it was very nice. The actual pickup of this was a nightmare. That was the dealer who sells the truck in Tampa. That's not who I'm talking about. The dealer that I'm talking about is the Isuzu dealer in Jacksonville, Florida. Nimnik Isuzu, I think is the name of them. For getting maintenance items, parts, they're awesome. There's a guy there, Alan, who I talked to in the parts department. He'll put together an order for me and he'll send a truck out to my house at no cost to drop everything off. It's the most convenient thing ever. So when it comes to like the maintenance on this truck, we're going to do every 300 hours, oil, fuel filter, grease, all that kind of stuff. I just ordered some windshield wiper blades, some coolant from them. I ordered a whole batch of lug nuts and studs for all the different, because you know there's right rear and there's left rear and there's reverse thread, so that whole batch. So if I ever had any issues there, I could fix that. So that's one good advantage of this Isuzu truck. I guess that's going to depend a lot on the dealer you have locally, but for parts and support, I haven't really had any support yet because there is some open recall on this. There was an open recall when it was sold to me, but it's kind of a trivial thing that I haven't decided to go into Jacksonville for yet. But at least getting parts, they make it really easy. So that's one real nice thing about this Isuzu and the Isuzu dealer network. So now we're on to the Pacmac garbage body. This I have had a couple of dumb issues with. There's a couple of things that didn't work right from the factory. Like there's a little button here, signal driver button, that does a beep in the cab. That one has never worked right. I never ride on that side, and the actual part you can get for just a couple bucks off Amazon, so that's not really a big issue. There's a PTO hour meter here that's never worked right, but that doesn't really matter either because I'm doing my maintenance based off of the engine hours, not the PTO hours, so I don't really need to keep track of PTO hours. And then if you've watched the videos, you may have seen that there's been a couple of times where hydraulic clamp brackets, which you won't be able to see because they're all the way up there. Where are they? They're on the other side. These guys right here, these are what they use to hold hydraulic lines and hoses in. I've had two different ones vibrate loose, and I lost the first one because it was the very first day I used the truck. I didn't know what it was that had vibrated loose, and it got lost to the trash. The other one that vibrated loose got stuck on some trash up top, so I was able to save that. But just little silly stuff like that you would think wouldn't happen on a truck that's $130,000. But from what I've seen, that's kind of par for the course with refuse trucks. I'm part of a garbage truck mechanic group, and there are people who get brand new trucks delivered that are $300,000 and $400,000, and they are down in the shop for repairs within like a week or two. So if these are the only issues I'm having, things that you can fix with $2 parts, $7 parts off Amazon, I'm fine with that. Again, the dealer experience for selling was great, and this was a phenomenal deal on this truck. $135,000 for a brand new one of these is pretty difficult to find. That's all in, out the door. The market average for these when I was looking was around 150. You would have some people who were trying to sell them for 200 in some markets. I have no clue why. I grease it every Sunday before our Monday route. Now the big question a lot of folks want to know when it comes to a garbage truck is, how many cans will it hold? I don't know. That's not how trash works. So we have people who throw away 2 very small bags every week that maybe weigh not even 10 pounds between the 2 of them, maybe 5 pounds between the 2 of them. Then we've got folks who run little homesteads on their property. They might have 100 pounds almost every single week. But what I can say is that on average, we were able to fit about 170 cans. The other thing to keep in mind with that number, not only are the cans different sizes, let me rephrase that a little bit. The cans are all the same size. They're all these 96-gallon trash cans. But the cans are different sizes because of the amount of trash in them. But also, you'll have some percentage every week of people that forget to put their cans out. We don't have enough data to give a concrete number, but usually around 1% will leave or forget their cans. That can be higher, especially if there is some holiday that maybe banks recognize that the landfill doesn't. Like I think President's Day was a Monday where we had maybe 6 or 7 people leave their cans at home. Now, whether that was because they didn't think we were going to pick up or they just didn't have enough trash, I don't know. But when we had 170 cans on the route, we could still do that all in here. As far as how much trash, this is an 8-yard body, and the compaction rate is something like 700 to 800 pounds per cubic yard. But if you've got 8 cubic yards and you can compact 800 pounds of trash per cubic yard, 8 times 8 is 64. You would expect about 6,400 pounds of trash to be compressed in this 8 cubic yard body. Now, you would never want to overload a garbage truck. Your rear axle, I've learned, is going to determine what some of your limits are. Your gross vehicle weight rating will determine what some of your limits are. Basically, you can put more trash in this body than your rear axles can handle, or that you're legally allowed to be driving based on the gross vehicle weight of this truck. All that being said, I could imagine with a very high degree of certainty that this truck could fit at least 6,940 pounds of trash in it and still have a little bit of room left over. And if you wanted to abuse the hydraulics, like forcing them past where their limit switches shut them off, I would imagine you could do even more. So 700 to 800 pounds, yeah, this thing will pack more than that actually. If you wanted it to, which you shouldn't. It's not safe, it's gonna wear out your rear axles, all that jazz. This garbage body, aside from the few issues I've had getting it and then the couple of dumb things that have happened while I've owned it, it's given us no problems. It has done the job beautifully. The tipper picking up the trash can has operated beautifully. Going from throwing stuff manually into a dump trailer, which is how we started, to this, which does all the work for you, I can't tell you how nice it is. It's a night and day difference, and it changed it from trash pickup being something that I probably couldn't get through another year of to, yeah, I can do this for 12 hours, easily more, because the machine does 95% of the work for you. The hardest part of my job, the hardest physical part, is just wheeling a full trash can from wherever the customer leaves it to the back of the trash truck, and then after that, the trash truck does all the work. So I know a lot of you folks who are looking at these videos to start your own business may have more questions. If so, leave them down in the comments, but honestly, the best way to get a hold of me is shooting me an email, and I'll be happy to help you however I can. That is our Isuzu 8-yard Pacmac rear load garbage truck review for the first 7 months of ownership. We'll be back with you in a year or so and see how it's holding up then.